Okay, we are now recording.
Alert Sunday.
Let's see here.
You got a flag looking at me here.
Let's
I
do
did
the roll call
recognize-
first and then we'll stand.
Wait for him to turn it on.
The Parks Committee will come to order October 25th. We'll note all members are present. Alder Stoyer, Alder Campbell, Alder Eck, Alder Weary. And if we could do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
All right.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm in the House Speaker.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Can I have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Alder Stoyer to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second, Alder Eck. Any changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Alder Eck, second by Campbell. Changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number one, consideration, 1 and 2 kind of go together, so this was a late addition. This is what the agenda change was.
It does go
Consideration
together?
with possible action, pardon?
1 and 2 don't go together, do they?
One with the other.
Oh,
2 and 3 go together.
2 and 3.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
I
it
was
back. Yeah,
confused.
I'm reading it wrong. That's my
Oops.
bad. Let's start over. Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh,
One consideration
What he called.
with
Last
possible
pass,
action on the approval of a change order for $12,500 for additional engineering work associated with the stormwater management and trail design for Old Preble. Director.
Yeah, so usually for a change order of that price, it's not necessary to come to committee and council for approval. In this instance, I decided to come to you for approval. And the reason being is it's part of a larger project. And so last year, or in 2023, the city bonded $25,000 to hire an engineering firm to do the stormwater management design for Old Preble Park. That money's been approved already, and we recently went out for quotes, sent it out to 4 companies, only 2 companies provided a quote. We already hired Robert E. Lee and Associates to do the work for the stormwater management design for $19,800, which is under what is required to get committee and council approval. As we were looking at that project and talking it through with the consultant that I approved hiring, we decided to amend the scope of work and include some trail design in conjunction with the stormwater management.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch.
It just makes sense to engineer it all jointly. And plus, our staff is very booked with other projects right now. So for our staff, engineering staff, to engineer a small project like this trail design, it would just be very cumbersome and not very timely in relation to the design of the stormwater management. So we asked them for a change order price to add to the contract, and their change order price was $12,500 to do the engineering for the trail design. And there's a map in the agenda packet showing where the trails are going to be located and what they're going to actually design. So now the total cost is $32,300, which now means we're over the $25,000 threshold for getting approval. But I've already hired them to do Part A. So as I mentioned, we only bonded $25,000. We do have enough money in our bond account from other previous projects that we didn't spend all of the money. So I don't need any additional funding, but I would like approval to proceed with the additional scope of work modifications for $12,500.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions from the committee?
Motion to approve.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I didn't see, there's no map in here.
yeah, it'll pop up if you,
Yeah.
oh, there you go. It takes a
Just
minute.
takes a little while. to
I know, I
load.
thought the same thing, and then also, oh, it popped up.
I just
Go
was
down
wondering
farther.
where it was. I was
Further.
there, and then I had to click back and it went away.
It should be
So they're going to be
down
doing the trail design for kind of the hatched, the darker area. All of the trail work that's within that parameter, or that boundary, I should say.
Hillside there? Is that where this is?
Yeah,
What's
so
it-
this is,
Hillside,
Hill?
okay.
It's
Hillview?
yeah,
it's
it
off
used
of
to be
Main
called
Street,
Oakdale Park, now it's all Old Preble Park.
Oh.
kind of toward St. Bernard's.
Yeah, it's
Church.
about
Oh, you
2
mean
blocks
down-
west of St.
Down
Bernard's.
behind. down.
I
It's
think
the
there's-
Rasmus used to
Yes.
be.
Yep.
That area.
Right next to Razzmatazz.
Oh,
Played and
okay.
watched baseball there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
cool.
still had a
So-
motion from Alder Steuer
Oh, okay.
to
Second.
approve.
Second.
Second by Alder Campbell. Any discussion on this? No?
It's on the east side, so don't.
Yeah, that's true, he's our east side
He
representative.
gets upset if I jump in.
It's rare we throw the east side of scrap first.
Happily.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Save the best for last, right?
All right, now these two are related. So consideration with possible action, number 2 here, on the request by Astor Neighborhood Association and Astor East River Neighborhood Association to apply for a mini grant for the purchase and installation of a furnace for the Astor Park shelter. I would infer that this means that they would like to put a furnace in the shelter. I don't know, Director, if you want to talk first, or if you want to open the floor.
What I would just recommend is you open the floor for discussion and you can speak to the topic.
We'll make a motion to open the floor.
Second?
Motion by Alder Campbell, second by Alder Rector, open the floor for interested parties. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody out there? Step up and give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Eric Dreswicki. My address is 632 South Roosevelt here in Green Bay, 54301. I'm actually presently on the board of both the Astor Neighborhood Association and the Astor East River Neighborhood Association because there's some overlap, 2 streets that overlap or 3 streets that overlap in those associations because one is pretty old. And so, anyway, we come mostly to ask for sort of like the blessing to move forward in a pursuit to obtain together collectively a mini grant with the purpose of getting an acceptable heating unit and necessary ductwork so that the shelter would be able to be used year-round. Seeing that it appeared to have been built with that intent in the first place, to be year-round usable, and the absence of heat sort of prevents that for, of course, a decent amount of the year in Green Bay. And our goal would be to be able to maybe provide community amenities like when we have an ice rink in Astor to maybe have hot chocolate that could be, provided, things like that we'd be able to provide a service to our community. We definitely have seen a lot of increase in the population, and so one of our primary goals is to be more and more services that we can provide as associations to the park area where we find that has a lot of benefit for youth, especially at-risk youth, where this might be their best outlet to do something. So that's the first part of it. I would like to speak to the second part, but separately, just so we can address this logically.
And the second part is the next agenda item, so we can open the floor again
Yeah.
for that second topic later.
Any questions from the committee?
Did you, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you know what the approximate cost is of that?
So we had, I think, some discussion with Parks a while ago, maybe through Cheryl, might have liaison back and forth. And we had the impression that it'd be in the 5 to potentially up to 10 grand range, but hopefully closer around 5,000. And so we kind of came into it with the idea that it might run us somewhere between 5, hopefully to 7, with our goal with mini grant work. So yeah, that was our expectation, but we were not anticipating that this would be city expense whatsoever, that this would be secured through the associations and through mini grants, and maybe potentially a corporate funding as well to match the mini grant work. So this was, our goal is to completely fund this project. Of course, we understand that also parks would have to do work, so if we were funding, we don't want to, make wrong assumptions as to what that could impact to the Parks Department, so that's kind of why we're coming here tonight.
And just to clarify that, we do have an HVAC specialist that works for the Parks Department, so I reached out to him to ask him how much it would cost to put a furnace in at this building. When we built the building, we built it in such a way that there would be very little additional infrastructure that needs to be built in, because we already kind of preliminary built a lot of this stuff for it. So it's about $1,500 to purchase the furnace, and our HVAC specialist can install it at no charge to the neighborhood association. but we would have to hire a company to do the remaining ductwork, which will be around $3,500. So the total cost is probably around $5,000. It'd be nice if they could budget a little bit more in case the ductwork costs a little bit more than we anticipate, but that should be the only upfront cost. Beyond that, there's an annual cost to heat it. It's just
Right.
like heating your house. Now, in this situation, we would turn it way down when it's not being used to the minimum levels, and then only, heat it when there's meetings or activities going at
Okay.
that park.
Yeah, I just wondered because I know that the mini grants, I know we have a little more money in the budget for mini grants, but,
Any other
Just seeing if it's
questions
realistic.
for Eric?
Well,
Otherwise, we'll,
kind of want to know what plans they were, but it can probably be answered by director here,
I
but
have a question for Eric.
yeah, why don't we handle it?
Let's do
Eric's
that.
questions here.
Oh,
Do you have one for Eric?
well, when he cut in, that's what.
Oh, okay,
no.
I think he was clarifying something, so.
Well,
Go ahead then.
okay, I just want a quick question. Eric, well, first, thanks for getting involved with this. So I guess the question I had is that, there are many grants, et cetera. You're looking for approval from the city just so you can move ahead with that request? Is that part of it?
Yes, we didn't want to do the work of securing donors, grant matchers, doing that work, putting the cart in front of the horse if the city was going to say, no, we really don't want that there, or Parks was against it. Also with the understanding that there are, like the director said, potential residual costs of heat that we didn't want to essentially put anybody in a corner. If we had already done the work, we might create a undue pressure on the officials, because then you would feel like jerks if you said no when we had already got funding, for a furnace in the work, and we didn't want to put anybody in a negative position like that either. So we figured before doing any of that, we would, pursue sort of like a blessing to proceed with no financial commitment, other than the understanding that, yes, there are some, I guess, residual costs with heating and all of that to keep, at the minimum levels, so.
Is your understanding that this furnace would be remotely controlled then to keep it down? Or how would that, does somebody have to always go in there and take a look at it, for?
We would defer to park policy when it comes to that.
I'll wait for that.
Well, just to kind of piggyback up what you're saying, only because I've applied for many grants, they do ask, have you worked with the proper department at the city? So it is something that they expect you to do prior to
Right.
filling it out, so, or it'll
good.
boost your chances, I would say.
Yeah.
So Eric,
Hold the camera, go ahead.
what kind of events do you got going on there now? I know it's a pretty active park. You guys do a good job doing that. What kind of events do you got going on there? Do you have anything going on there right now?
Sure, well,
Or have?
right now, the shelter seems to mostly get used for birthday parties, graduation parties, when it gets rented out or secured with parks, just from observation, because I'm in there every day playing Pokemon, in the park area. So I do see it, get regularly used for that. Presently, our association will reserve it from time to time for a meeting, never in the winter months. And we, in the past, the Astor East River Association has done picnics in the parks, potlucks in the parks, where the shelter area would be used, not in the winter. Astor Park has historically had a very nice, well-made ice rink, weather permitting, which does create a lot of extra winter traffic, where right now the shelter isn't really usable. So one of our visions was that would actually expand and be a nice resource to sort of leverage something that's already being done. And we have the idea of the possibility of a winter festival, things like that. But a lot of what's possible there depends on the usability of the shelter in winter months.
I primarily wanted to know in the winter, what winter stuff you had going on, not.
Yeah, primarily
Not
the
summer.
ice rink usage is the main thing right now.
Okay, and the parking lot and everything gets plowed and all that there? Is there
We don't
parking?
have a parking lot. It's generally street parking in some areas. Some you can't because of the hospital proximity, but.
Okay. That's all I needed to know from you, what winter activity you had going on there. I know you got good involvement.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alder. Any other questions?
Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the
Second.
floor by Alder Steuer, second by Alder Campbell. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Director? Yeah, go ahead.
Since you already opened up, I
sure, go
figured
ahead.
you were pretty much done. So, is this gas or propane? And is there gas to the building?
I don't know that answer. I know that if there is gas, we'll use it because it is cheaper than
Oh, yeah.
electric. But if there isn't gas, then we'll go with electric because it's cheaper to go
Okay.
that
All
route.
right.
So it'll be one or the other. I don't know what service is there
I
off
know.
the top of my head.
Fire department, fire code, propane tanks in public, or even in private, they want to know. And
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
are not gonna do propane tanks.
Yeah.
It'll either be gas or.
So I was just wondering that, if there was even gas there, I was gonna ask him, but, more really directed toward you. So there isn't cooking in there or anything like that? Like, isn't there some that have like cooking, like up by Addison or something, that one that they put a lot of
No.
money in?
No, we don't really have a full kitchen in
None of them?
any of our shelters anymore. We used to in a couple of them, but those were removed.
Do you think this is something down the road that if one park gets it, everyone's gonna want one?
A lot of our shelters already have heat in
Oh,
them,
do they?
so especially anyone that has an ice rink has heat in it because we use it for a warming shelter. Astor used to have an ice rink. It hasn't in a number of years, and that's why we did not initially put the furnace in. That was just a cost savings measure at the time.
Okay, I just wanna know if it had service to it, because that would be a cost to the city above probably and beyond a grant to get it there.
I make a motion to approve.
There's a motion by Alder Eck.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that a second? Alder
Yeah.
Campbell? Second by Alder Campbell to approve the request. Would it be for the installation of a furnace at Astor Park Shelter
Well, the
pending?
mini grant applied.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
to look
it's
at it.
giving them approval to apply for the grant.
Right.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Is that okay with Director? Okay.
Yep, I am comfortable with that motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Number 3, consideration with possible action on the request by the Astor and Astor East River Neighborhood Associations to allow free use of the Astor Park shelter for meetings if they are able to secure adequate funding to purchase and install a furnace for that shelter.
I would recommend we open the floor again and let Eric speak.
Motion to open the floor?
Second.
Motion up the floor by Alder Eck, second by Alder Campbell. Discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Name and address, please.
Eric Drzwicki, 632 South Roosevelt Street, Green Bay, 54301. So I do want to maybe clarify the request. We understand the park policy of 3 free essentially rentals a year. But what we'd be looking more for is, because we understand, at least based on reading park policy, that additional usage is generally allowed as long as no one else is reserving the shelter. And so we were trying to make sure that that would not be an issue, that if there were no other conflicts, that we would be able to have maybe a more open usage while no other conflicts, especially for things like running a hot chocolate stand when there's serving as a warming shelter. To clarify, I do believe we've had a rink the last couple of years, or at least a truck has come and flooded. And so our goal would be to try to provide a supplement for that, although it's not as easy if there's not maybe an association that's helping run that thing. And it's the goal, I believe, of Astor Neighborhood Association to allow Astor East River Association the ability to do that as part of their getting back up, if possible, getting back going, to create more of a presence and strengthen the association. So the goal really isn't to increase our amount of free usage allotments per year, but maybe a more flexible arrangement where there could be a key allowed for usage with the understanding that it's only if there is no other usage reserved. That's primarily the goal, just to sort of make easier access and use. Especially considering we have noticed in our neighborhoods less buildings that are able to house association meetings, specifically an issue for the Astor East River Neighborhood Association. We had to hold the startup meeting actually outside of the association boundaries because we could not secure a building for usage, like from like churches like St. Mary's and local buildings. So,
Questions for Eric? Thank you. Close the
Motion to
floor.
close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Alder Sawyer, second Alder Campbell, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the floor is closed. Director?
So in regards to that request, although I appreciate the request and understand the reasons why, I would recommend as a director to deny that request. And the reason being is we have neighborhood associations all over the city. And we've had similar requests from other neighborhood associations, and we've denied those requests. We have compromised throughout the years, and the current policy is we allow 3 free rentals per neighborhood association per year, per calendar year. In this situation, there are 2 neighborhood associations that use this park, so they can strategize, and they would have 6 free rentals between the 2 associations per the current policy. I am hesitant to grant something different in this situation because we have had a lot of other neighborhood associations who have applied for mini grants that were substantially large and provided a lot of amenities to other parks, and we don't allow them the same agreement. And so just to be consistent with all of the neighborhood associations, I would recommend just sticking with the current policy of 3 free rentals per year per association.
Thanks, Director. So if it did go over 6, could they on a case-by-case basis apply for it or ask for it?
They could request, and it would be up to my discretion to allow it. That's pretty much how the policy works. It's pretty rare when we do grant that. I will tell you that Astor Shelter is one of our highest, top reserve shelters in the city because it's a nice shelter. It's a beautiful facility. And so if we provide heat, there might be an interest to even reserve those shelters in the winter, that shelter in the winter months, which brings in additional revenue. And every time that somebody else is using it, takes away from that potential shelter rental possibility. But it really is just, I really want to be consistent between all the other neighborhoods because, this is a significant expense incurred to put this in, but other neighborhood associations have spent similar amounts of money, if not more, within the parks.
Thanks, Director. I had 3 people with questions. We'll just start on the end and work our way around. I think you all put your hand up at the same time, so Alder Campbell.
Although I think using our parks all year round is a great idea, I just want some bathrooms in some of my parks, before a shelter. I'm just saying, that's probably how a good organized, cart before the horse, I think, in this ask, I would favor to deny it too, just because it's a little bit ahead of the whole project here, kind of blended in. I don't think it's needed right now. I'm sure we could revisit this situation again and look at it again down the road. But, I think with my first comment, it's probably why they have a very strong neighborhood association. 2, for that matter, and good active people. I look at, once I got a park, maybe I'll be able to get that rocking and rolling a little bit more too. So that's just my opinion on it. But I think it's just a little early on this ask.
Thanks. Thanks, Alder Campbell. Alder Eck?
Okay, so what my understanding is that in the winter, at least I've been told that when I call, that they don't, like at John Muir Park, which obviously that's where my neighborhood association is, that I'm the only one that can call to reserve during the winter, as the president, is what I've been told. So it's like they're not available during the winter.
Typically, that's the case for the general public. And the reason being is we usually only rent or heat our shelters when there's an ice skate opportunity adjacent to it. So it becomes a warming shelter for the ice rinks. And so we can't rent the shelter to the public and still allow it as a warming shelter. There's very few shelters in the system that we heat that doesn't have an ice rink associated with it. Usually, you know, in those instances, even if there is a furnace, we still winterize it and shut it down and don't make it available, because there truthfully is very little interest in the winter months to rent a shelter.
So, you said that they have been flooding the ice, so as a warming shelter, what do those hours look like, and are they manned?
We used to man warming shelters for all ice rinks. We stopped doing that, and now we only provide it at the hockey rink locations. So now we just open the warming shelters to the general public when we have them available for people to use as needed, and we don't staff it. We do staff the hockey rink locations, though.
Okay.
Anything else? Old Destroyer.
Thank you, Chair. Dan, I was wondering, roughly how many shelters are there in Green Bay, in the parks? Just
Offhand, it would be a guess. I don't know that number off the top of my head.
Okay. So you're saying that any of the shelters are, you get 3 free uses wherever you're at?
Every neighborhood
Every neighborhood.
association can have 3 free
I
rentals
see.
of whatever
I see.
shelter they would like.
Because I presume this is a revenue generator for the Parks Department, that you would, you know, when you rent out shelters. Is there any idea how much monies might be brought in during the course of the year on something like that?
Well, I mean, we have a revenue line item for shelter rentals. I can't really tell you if allowing the free rentals to the neighborhood associations has any impact on that revenue source.
Right.
If it does, it'd be minor. But yeah, I'm sure it has some impact for every free rental we give away. That's a potential rental opportunity that we're losing.
All right, well, you know, like you said, it's a very heavily used park for that type of thing, and other parks maybe not so much, but I suppose you're trying to stay consistent on a policy for all parks, not to show deference to one or the other.
Correct.
Thanks, Old
That's all I
Destroyer.
got.
Thank you. Alder Campbell?
I forgot.
All right.
Oh, I know what it was. So, is there any policy, say, like a trial basis, can people rent a tent and put it up in a park during winter, say, or even in summer?
They can. We have a tent rental fee.
Oh, okay.
So you can put up a tent in any park and charge. We charge a very minimal fee to allow them to do it. There are very specific locations that they can put up tents because of underground utilities. So we kind of steer them in a certain location within specific parks. But you can with approval, and you have to pay a minimal fee.
Are they heated?
Well, there's that igloo thing.
All right, any other questions? What are your wishes? Did you want us to open the floor for another comment?
Motion open the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alder Campbell, or Destroyer to open the floor, second by Alder Campbell. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
You know,
You don't need to see your address again. I think we know you.
we know where you live now.
Sure, yes. So one maybe amendment to the request then, or a different consideration would be, would the Parks Department be amenable to the idea of the associations maybe staffing the shelters, maybe selling hot chocolate or something during when it's being used as a warming shelter, as a way to both provide value to the city? Again, non-committal, just is the concept, a potentially agreeable concept, something looking mainly, Astor Neighborhood Association was looking at it as a possibility for Astor East River, because the Astor Neighborhood Association has a very successful Popcorn in the Park program that's done with city bands, but there isn't anything like that for Astor East River Neighborhood Association presently, and so the hope would be maybe less of a free use concept and more of a, since there isn't maybe staffing for warming shelter days, that, you know, on Saturdays, the association could have, you know, a couple people there assisting and maybe adding value, while at the same time, maybe, you know, getting some sales from hot chocolate and candy bars or something.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
would say that that's a side topic that you and I can discuss.
Okay.
I got a question.
Sure, when the horse and the cart are all where they need to be.
Yeah,
All right,
I think that's a separate issue, yeah, thanks.
Eric, I just want to know what neighborhood association boundary do you live in?
I live in both, actually. because Astor Neighborhood Association extends from the Fox River to and including Roosevelt. The Astor East River Neighborhood Association extends from the East River to and including Clay. And so Roosevelt and Clay actually end up being in both association boundaries. This was something that the Green Bay Neighborhood president said that nearly exploded his head, but Cheryl did confirm that the associations actually share some territory. So I'm in both and I'm on both boards,
Nice.
which is,
So you live in the boundary?
I live in the no man's land, or the two man's land, I guess you could say, so.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Okay.
That's all.
Motion to close the
Motion to
floor.
close the floor.
Second.
Alder Steuer, second by Alder Campbell. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. What are your wishes, committee?
I would say, basically what Director Ditchite said, that, they can talk offline about this. It's really not on the agenda to deal with it accordingly, so we can work that out at another time. So I would make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
Motion by Alder Steuer, second by Alder Campbell to deny. Any discussion on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Opposed?
Just one recommendation is on that motion, I would say, and instead allow them access per the current policy of.
That's
3
fine.
feet
Okay with the motion maker?
per year.
All right,
fine
that all
with
right?
that.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, so with that amended, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, everything today goes to council in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday,
November 7th.
November 7th.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very much.
Yep.
All right.
thank you, Eric.
Director's report.
The only thing that I want to touch bases on real briefly is the Triangle Hill and snowmaking equipment. At the last meeting, that kind of came up for discussion as far as whether or not we're going to have snowmaking equipment available and ready. We still won't have a delivery date. It's going to be sometime in the middle of the winter when we're going to receive the equipment. But at this point, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to have the infrastructure necessary to accommodate that equipment installed in time for it. So even if we get the equipment delivered kind of midwinter, which is when we're expecting the equipment to be delivered, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to use it this winter season.
So you're saying we could run the snow hill through June?
Yes.
Push it back a little bit. All right, I like it.
So just kind of a heads up with that.
You'll have normal usage, though.
Yeah, we'll have normal usage. It won't be any different than in the past, and, we'll really be set up well for next year. It's just, the infrastructure became very significantly more complex than what we originally envisioned when we purchased that equipment. Not to say that it's not achievable, it's just much more infrastructure is needed, which requires a lot more planning and permitting than we thought that we originally needed.
Did you have a question? Alder?
Oh, no, I thought that that was part of what we had approved, is hiring the engineer to figure that all.
Correct. In the past, we did. We received approval to hire an engineering consultant to do a stormwater management plan and to do the architectural and engineering work associated with the storage building, running the water lines and running the electric lines. We're still working on completing those construction plans and getting the permits for the stormwater management. So like I said, it just became more complex, which added time to the planning process, and unfortunately, we just we're running out of time is what it comes down to.
Alder Campbell?
With going back to our last item, and if there's no gas into that building to get this, I'd hate to see something like this. I know on approval of the snowmaking stuff and the ARPA money and everything that had everything to do with it, and timing wise, and late in the year in the summer and everyone gets booked tight and they're not going to be able to engineer it, and then they're not going to be able to put it in, and now we have all the equipment and know where to go with it. I'd like to see that looked at a little bit more carefully in the park, in the Astor Park situation we just talked about too, so.
And for Astor, just to clarify, if there's gas, we'll hook up to the gas that's there already to the building. If there is no gas line, the electric service is sized correctly to accommodate it. So there's no additional infrastructure work that will have to do for the furnace.
Otherwise, other than it's twice as expensive. So,
Okay.
Any other questions?
Receive and place in file. Make a motion.
Motion received and placed on file by Alder Stoyer,
Second?
second by Alder Eck. Any comments? Those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next meeting is November 29th.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Alder Eck.
Second.
Second by Alder Stoyer. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are, to quote Randy Scannell, adjourned.
Adjourned, yeah.
Adjourned.
From a teacher, adjourned. Couple minute break here.